Yes, once again you are welcome to this morning on ITV. And thank you very much for keeping faith with us. We are indeed here just for you. We are now in that discussion segment, Nationalism and You. And we'll be examining a topic, bridging the gap between the government and the governed. And with me in the house to discuss this morning, no one else than Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo, a former publicity secretary of the AMPP, a socio-political analyst, and a politician par excellence. Mr. Ibrahim Modibo, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Now to you, Mr. Ibrahim Modibo. Nationalism and You.
It's my responsibility and inherent conviction to develop my nation.
Thank you very much. You heard that. If I were you at home, I would put my right hand on my chest too and say the same thing to me. Yes. Nation building is a process, yes, and it involves the collectives. Now, Mr. Modibo, bridging the gap between the government and the governed. In the first place, are there gaps?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful program that has attracted a lot of attention in recent times, and I'm very, very delighted to be part of this program today, having watched a lot of your guests that have been able to make serious impact and making a lot of marks on the political scenes of this country.
Thank you. That's why we are here.
Yes. Having stated this, well, it is a normal democratic process the world over that there is no government that could comfortably say that it has been able to meet the yearnings and aspirations of its nationalities 100%. Now, there must be gaps. In every situation, there is an exception. I strongly believe that within the context of Nigeria, and looking at the situation at hand since the coming of this democratic journey, well, we'll say that, government being a continuum since 1999 to the present, you'll agree with me, Chief Ebenezer, we've been in the trenches together, we've been in the political cycles together, moving from one place to the other to canvass for votes of the people under a normal democratic setting. And we thank God that there hasn't been any break, in terms of transmission, where we have any military interregnum within this space. So the democracy of government of the people, for the people, and by the people seems to have been able to withstand all the pressures. There are gaps, definitely. As I've rightly stated, no government could claim, Chief Ebenezer, that it has met the yearnings and aspirations of all its citizens. Not for any reason, but the fact that if you look at democracy and the government, especially the present one that I know very well, that I've been familiar with, we have to look at the issue from a very pragmatic viewpoint. Pragmatic in the sense that, Chief Ebenezer, you agree with me, that it came on ground and met a lot of challenges. And these challenges were challenges that they've been able to see how it could be surmountable, because I strongly believe that there's something that is insurmountable. But the process of the governance, we have to look at the issues right from the time this present government came in. When President Muhammadu Buhari came in as a leader of this country, running this present government, he came on a tripodal structure of fighting corruption, taming insecurity, and also trying to fix the economy, trying to open the political space for mass participation, and also bringing in constitutionalism and rule of law, and also trying to bring credible electoral process. Now, if you ask me, have we been able to, as a government, has this government been able to meet the yearnings of aspiration of Nigerians? I will tell you that, look, it has done its best, but the best is not yet enough. I strongly believe there is room for improvement. There is room for the government to look at the issues, because for now, because of the economic doldrum to which this government came in, before then, since 1999, you'll agree with me, Chief Ebenezer, that the economy was a bit buoyant. At a point, we had a government that had a lot of money. There were overflows, because if you look at them, the budget was just about 80, maybe 70 or $80, but we had about 100 or something. There was so much surplus that instead of investing into the process of governance, trying to at least fix the social infrastructure, most governors have pushed for, the president then, Goodluck Jonathan, to just distribute the money to them. And it's a very sad commentary that we find ourselves in a situation where some of these monies were not properly invested in the social infrastructure of this country. It has not been able to meet the year.
I was coming to the segmentations of, what do you call it? Gaps. Yeah. Segmentization of gaps.
Yes.
In the areas of infrastructures that you are talking about, we are not domiciling this topic just on the government of President Buhari or Jonathan alone. Yeah. Perennially, how has the government been connecting with the people? How has the government been connecting with the people? Let us take the segment of infrastructure.
Very good. Assuming without necessarily conceding to the critical opinion of fair weather critics, I want to believe that since 1999, when President Olusegun Obasanjo came in, right down to Yaradua, to Goodluck Jonathan, and now Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, I think there's been a continuum. If you look at the issues of railways, transport, you'll agree with me that the starting point, I think, was for either Obasanjo or Yaradua or Goodluck Jonathan, this railway system was started. And when this president came in, he has been able to complete the railway project, especially from Kaduna to Abuja, and also the internal railway system within the comfort zone of the FCT, the light railway system, and also looking at the issue today, where we find the Lagos-Ibadan axis of 157 kilometer network has been completed. The Atakpe Owari 325 kilometers has been completed, and now there is, I think either this week or next week, early next week, there will be this Kano.
What about electricity?
Yes, I'm coming to that. Kano, Kaduna railway gauge that will be coming in. Now, if you look at the issue of electricity, honestly and sincerely, for any right observer, we'll find out that there has been a tremendous tremendous improvement in terms of generating capacity. I don't know about the distribution, but at a point we're generating up to 7,000 megawatts, and I think this is a very, very major landmark, just rising from maybe 2,000 or 3,000 to about 7,000 megawatts. So I think it has done well, but still there's room for improvement. Now, if we look at the issue of even the issue of aviation, look at the way the airports were modeled. Go to Abuja, look at the railway, the runways, look at even the buildings, the structures. Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, Port Harcourt, Lagos, they've all undergone series of transformation. Now, if you look at the issue of this fighting corruption, although we are still on, you're talking, I don't know, you're about going into the next project, but if you allow me, I will look at the issue of corruption holistically. The issue of fighting corruption, which is one of the fundamentals of the present administration, I think the present administration has done very well. Although there are shortfalls, but I strongly believe, whether anybody likes it or not, the credit to the fight of corruption of Mr. President under the last administration, especially that of Ibrahim Magu, I strongly believe he has been able to capture my heart. He has been able to do tremendously well in trying to fight corruption, while we've seen people that looted the economy, people that made, have been able to turn our common patrimony into their own private estates. So this has been tackled, and I think Nigeria has been moving. But then, it is not yet over, because we've seen that there are pitfalls, and then there's been this change of guard. So to me, up to now, I have not seen any fundamental difference from the Magu era to the present, because I've not been able to see this young man aggregating himself, finding the right, network of human and material capital to put together to see how the fight of corruption could be invigorated. I think it has slowed down. So there's the need for this young man.
Have you noticed that there is this trend of the people that are not in government, that is the governed? We are discussing bridging the gap between the government and the governed. Yes. Have you noticed that the governed normally sees the people in the government as a community of self-profiteers? And sometimes the people in the government also see the people that they are governing as burden, rather than seeing them as assets. So, what do you think is the cause of this perception?
You see, let us properly situate and contextualize the issue at stake. Your question is very, very fundamental. And honestly, sincerely, I also share the sentiments of people looking at, those in government versus those that are out of government. For a very long time, especially when you look at the issue of this current democratic setup, where the current democratic tempo started in 1999 to the present, a lot of people see those in government as those that there hasn't been this kind of this kind of patriotic, selfless, and most profound, approachable system towards governance by the governed. This is very obvious for the fact that if you look at the tempo of corruption, there has been lack of transparent, sustainable, development posture, especially when you look at the issues of the people at the helm of government. Because if you look at the way they are, the flamboyancy of people in government, in the face of provocative poverty within the social cycles, it is very unfortunate. We find now the kind of hunger that is ravaging the land, not for anything, but the fact that there's insecurity problems here and there, which is not peculiar to this present administration. It has started for a long time, maybe even from the military era, coming down to democratic cycle under President Obasanjo, coming down up to this point. Now, this insecurity problem has caused farmers not to go to farms to be able to even produce foods. It has caused a lot of hardship that today Nigerians are hungry and are angry. If you look at the people in government, have they been able to tackle the issue of insecurity to make the people happy? I will tell you that they've not been able to do that. They should stand up and fight this issue of insecurity to its logical conclusion, because people are not happy. If you can't travel by road virtually virtually everywhere in Nigeria today, and there has been a lot of agitations of self-determination, agitations of the issue of not being treated fairly, agitations of lack of job opportunities, and what have you. So these are fundamental issues that the government or the people in governance must be able to tackle to make the populace or those out of government to be happy. So there has been this issue of, because if you look at, honestly, most of the people in government, they don't even go by road now. Even army officers, with all their ranks and all their orderlies, they will prefer going to the train station to enter train and go to Kaduna or go to anywhere than to follow road, because they are afraid of being kidnapped. So there must be a kind of some symbiotic relationship between the government and the governed to bridge the gap of mistrust. Because currently there is mistrust because the opportunities of making governance more approachable to the people and more acceptable to people and meeting the yearnings and aspirations of the people is not there.
What do you think is the cause of the gap between the government and the governed?
You see, in any setup, especially where a government is confronted with a lot of challenges of the economy, challenges of not providing social infrastructure because of economic deficit. Because if you look at now, it's only recently that the price of oil is getting up and up. But before now, things were down. We have to be borrowing. We have to be borrowing. You know, our borrowing is also our sorrowing, because we are leaving all these debt burdens to our children and children's children, and that is very unfortunate. But then we can't do without it, because in any developmental structure, especially if you are confronted with myriads of problems like this, you must be able to bring up things, policies and programs that should be invested now on, so that we have the profit in the future. Because if we leave it, if you don't invest on it now, our children and our children's children will be able to cry that, look, we left a lot of burdens and we've not been able to meet the yearning aspiration. Now the issue of, if you look at the issue of unemployment, for instance, a lot of graduates now don't have jobs. Why don't they have jobs? Because the economy is comatose. And some of the people in governance have also been accused severally of stealing the monies of Nigerians. You find people, corruption index in the country has gone so up. And this government, especially under the present circumstance, has been able to come up with issues, policies like TSA, which has done a lot of good. It has been able to checkmate corruption. It has been able to look at the issues pertaining to civil service and this thing. And also, let me quickly add here that when this government came in, there were social investment programs that has been able to put in place to make sure that Nigerians are happy. Look at the Empower, look at the issue of poverty eradication, look at the issue of feeding school programs, look at the issue of agriculture. The current government has been able to move, trying to move from mono economy to diversification, where we should not be concentrating on oil alone. We should move into agriculture, and by also trying to ban some of this foodstuff coming in, I think the government has been able to propel the wheel of progress. But I think there's more that needed to be done.
Talking about bridging the gap between the government and the governed, do you think the government is communicating their policies effectively to the people? That is, connecting the people to their policy. Do you think the government is doing well in this area?
Well, you see, honestly, if you allow me to assess, I think the government should be given maybe about maybe 20 to 25% of connectivity between the government and the governed, for very obvious reasons. If you look at the National Orientation Agency, this government came with the philosophy of change. Change presupposes that things should be, I mean, things have been moving from sublime to ridiculous, where mediocrity and iniquity ruled. And therefore, this government came with the philosophy of change, changing things for the better. The National Orientation Agency and also the agencies of government bestowed with responsibility of trying to change the face and character of governance have not been able to make any serious impact. We should have expected the National Orientation Agency that had all offices almost everywhere in the country. Look at how vibrant it was during Jerry Gana's time, especially during the Babangida's era. The National Orientation Agency was given responsibility of gingering the political space.
That time it was called MAMSA.
It was called MAMSA. Now that we have NOA, the NOA has become more of a toothless bulldog that could never bite, that could not bark nor bite a muscle. We've seen that I have not been seeing any active participation of the NOA. I have not been seeing them, trying to create serious impact, making inroad within the communication system, because they are supposed to be a link between the government and the governed, trying to bring out policies and programs of government for the betterment of Nigeria so that people will appreciate. But people have not been getting results. People have not been seeing the activities of government, have not been able to see a major landmark of national agency, and also some of these agencies bestowed with trying to sell the government. And therefore, I'm happy that the current government, I think there's a legacy project that is in the pipeline that they are now trying to unearth the achievements, solid personal achievements of the present administration to sell to the people by trying to talk to people, because people listen. When you talk to them, you bring vibrant and vital ideas to them, you sell them what you've been able to do, they will appreciate you more. But if you keep quiet, it brings a kind of a gap, widened gap between the government and the government.
Some people say, I have heard it more often, that the people in the government seems to be concealing their policies from the governed, and the governments are giraffing to see what the government are doing. Why such level of distrust?
That's what I'm saying. You see, the importance of communication or publicity cannot be overemphasized. It's just like winking in the darkness. Whatever you're doing, if you're not being able to bring out to people to see what you're doing, pictorially, with sound, with everything, there is bound to be that communication gap and also contempt on the side of the masses against the government. Because they've not been seeing anything. If they are seeing what you're doing, if you are bringing them closer to the major achievements of governance, they will be able to appreciate the demands and dynamics of operational democracy. But under the present circumstance, you find out that nothing much is being done, apart from the NTA that tries to highlight, some of the issues of governance. But then, a lot of people are looking at NTA as if it's a government propaganda machine. If the government have been able to look at the issue of developmental structures, spreading it to even the television stations that are private and what have you, let there be mass communication. Let there be aggregation of opinion, bringing up some of the achievements, solid achievements of the government to the fore, bringing it to the people. If you confront them with these solid achievements, they'll be able to appreciate you. But in a situation where they don't see anything, no jobs for our teeming youths, there hasn't been any serious issues in terms of, in terms of making them happy, in terms of security architecture, there is a problem. We must face the reality. The government must change the face and character of governance by way of trying to sell its own ideas, by way of coming out strongly to bring out some of the solid programs and policies. Because from the Obasanjo period to the present, honestly, sincerely, I believe there has been major landmarks. But then, these landmarks have not been brought to the fore, as I've stated. And there's also the need to take seriously the issue of fighting corruption. Because an angry man, a hungry man is an angry man. And also, an angry man is a danger to society. Because if you look at now, lack of jobs and whatever is what is bringing these criminals and criminality. So the government must be able to find jobs.
People are complaining that even the policies, interventions policies of the government vis-a-vis social investment programs and other beautiful programs, as you have just mentioned and enumerated, that they don't, many people are complaining that due to lack of appropriate communication, they don't know how to assess those things. What are your takes on it?
Yes, because I have stated there were a lot of social investment programs that this government came in to cushion the effects of economic hardship of the people. But it seems as
accessibility to it.
Yes, the accessibility to it is the major problem confronting the people. Look at even the there's this new program now that is being done to assist people in terms of agriculture. Why will be given 10 million or something like that if you have especially a cooperative society and what have you. But the conditions and conditionalities attached to the to access the program is what is a major problem, a major predicament to the teeming populace. Look at this government has invested serious billions, several billions in trader money, all this Empower,
the social investment programs.
Yes, just the social investment programs. If you look at it, all this, and they are very, very fundamental programs that are supposed to assist. And even currently now, if you look at the provision of jobs to people in 774 local governments, you know, of the whole country, you know, so as to arrest the kind of lack of jobs, it's also a major point of focus. But the assessment, sometimes under the circumstances, before you even get this thing, you have to bribe or you have to corrupt the officials, or you have to pay something. And this is a major problem confronting the issue of governance. You see, to me, it seems as if it's only President Muhammadu Buhari that is fighting corruption. He's fighting alone. Because most of the people that are with him, most of the people piloting the affairs of this governance, you find people accusing them here and there of
have you heard about people selling job employment to our youth? What manner of do you think?
Well, I think Mr. President should fire them. Anyone that is caught selling jobs, of which it is very true, people have been accusing a lot of people, just like this Federal Character Commission now, some people are turning it to Federal Character Corruption.
So in one word, taking all of this together, the necessity to bridge the gap between the government and the governance, knowing that concurrent confidence between the government and the governance can arrest insecurity, can help to create political stability and bestow peace on the nation. What is your advice?
Yes, my advice is the government should be up and doing, honestly, because I have the strongest conviction that Mr. President's coming into politics is born out of his patriotic desire to positively respond to our generational challenges. And these generational challenges has to do with unemployment, taming corruption, fighting corruption, taming insecurity, and then providing the necessary social mechanism to propel developmental structures of the country. So I think there is a need for government to be very serious in what it's doing, especially those that are helping President Muhammadu Buhari. To me, they've not been doing much, and there's need for them to come up and assist Mr. President in trying to achieve his laudable objective.
In the spirit of nationalism and you, what is your last message to Nigerians?
My last message to Nigerians is for us to be patriotic, to be nationalistic, and also, to me, you know, like Mr. President, you know, he has this patriotic and nationalistic posture towards development structure of Nigeria. And I strongly believe that as Nigerians, we should team up in the spirit of togetherness and the spirit of...
Thank you very much. You are welcome to the program, and we hope that when we have the opportunity to beckon on you again, you will avail yourself.
Thank you very much, Chief Ebenezer. I thank you most profoundly, and also thank the management of ITV for giving us this opportunity to our views on this fundamental national issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nationalism and you. We are going to be sailing into the second segment of the discourse. Don't go away and don't change this channel.